Hey, welcome to the Big Lou podcast. My name is Big Lou, and I'm an independent musician born and raised in St. Martin, currently based in London, Ontario. And for the past 5 years, since I turned 28, or just a couple of months before that, with no music experience, I decided to become a rapper. And since then, I've had really, truly awesome opportunities as a musician, and I've learned so many valuable lessons along the way. My goal is to grow Big Lou as big as possible, and on this podcast I talk about the different lessons and the experiences that I've had from my journey, the insights into the music industry, and whatever else I feel like discussing, because this is my podcast, damn it. So if you enjoy the show, be sure to subscribe and to follow me on social media for more updates. With that said, let's get into it. Today, I want to talk about my experiences from the first podcast that I ever started, which was called Go Produce Podcast. I was the show host, I was the executive producer, and I did manage to build a team around me that helped me execute it at the level that we did. Without them, it wouldn't have been what it is. But it was my baby, and I did nurture it. So it lasted for about 2 years, and we interviewed over 50 music industry professionals. There were over 60 episodes. Some weren't interviews. But ultimately, the goal was to determine how they turned their passion into profit, so that as an independent upcoming artist, musician, I would be able to do the same. Um, so we had a lot of fun with it, and over that 2 year process and over the 60 episodes that we've released, we learned a lot. The behind the scenes of making a podcast, about the music industry itself, about marketing this kind of content, about funding. And I doubt that we'll get into all of it right here, um, but we'll dive into a lot of it at least. And if you do have any questions, for sure, let us know. Shoot us some comments, some messages in the comments, and we'll get to it all. So first and foremost, I think what I learned from doing this whole experience, which you can watch more of the episodes here. They're still on YouTube, linked somewhere on the screen, and definitely in the description box below. But the first thing that I want to say that I learned was the importance of knowing your purpose. And you may not know it fully, and it might change over time, but knowing why you're doing the thing that you're doing will help you show up and do it to the best of your ability. That The reason I say that is because when I started Go Produce, I had the intention of sharing my story, but also learning from others to expedite my growth process. And so when I wanted to start my own podcast, kind of like this Big Loop podcast, but in my own regard, I didn't really know a lot of the things that I know now, back then. And so I wouldn't have been able to just comfortably do this podcast uh, uh, um, if I was just fresh off the boat like I was when I first approached this team. In that approach, the idea Go Produce came to life. Yo, if there's anyone on stream, thank you for being here. And we're just doing this for the first time, seeing what it is. Because I did say that we're going to be experimenting with stream in the last episode. So we're actually doing it now, which is dope. But yeah, know your purpose. I had to figure out, like, did I want to stray away from my original podcast idea, and what was the purpose of it? And ultimately, I said yes, because I get to learn more about the music industry. I get to build a team around me that will help me execute this podcast and do things that I can't do on my own. Um, and I'll be able to learn by being, closer to these people that are doing some of the things, or applying some of the skills that I needed to learn. And so that was my purpose with Go Produce. And I stuck to it until I felt like my purpose was met. And then in terms of knowing your purpose, you're going to want to be strategic. Um, Sometimes you don't get ownership. That's a strategic decision. If you can, I think having ownership is usually better. Obviously, it depends on the situation. A lot of music industry questions can be answered by "it depends," followed by an explanation. Um, but I think being as strategic as you can will help you first and foremost stay your path, because it does get rocky from time to time. You know what I'm saying? The storms do hit. Um, so if you're strategic with your decision, then you can be more affirmed in how you've arrived here, and more steady in terms of staying your ground, um, while the rocky situation passes by. Um, but you can also, be on your toes and strategically pivot quickly if a situation isn't going as foreseen, um, so that you can adjust your goal, and still align your behaviors and your actions to reach the ultimate goal, or to be aligned with your purpose. So a lot of strategy goes into that, and you're not necessarily expected to know all of this by yourself either. Talk to your peers, message, shoot DMs, comments, whatever. Leave questions down below. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into doing this. Um, Sometimes it's strategic to do things that scare you. Uh, a lot of the times, as humans, we step away from the things that scare us. If that sounds like you, that's totally okay. I used to be that. Um, and I think it's kind of like a muscle that you begin to apply. The more that you do it, the better you get at it. Um, and then the more that you do it, the more that you find yourself seeking these kinds of situations. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do things that are like dangerous to your life. Don't put yourself in like violent positions, and stuff like that because they scare you. Um, you know, Perform in front of a large audience if that scares you. If you're a musician and that doesn't scare you, maybe try giving a speech. Do something that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, to challenge yourself. Don't get too comfortable with where you're at, despite how far you may have come. Celebrate how far you've come, but at the same time, live on that edge. Do something a little bit differently, so it's a little bit new, and that new excites you, but it scares you, but it excites you. You know what I'm saying? And through this process of doing things that do scare you, and then maybe sometimes eventually they don't scare you anymore, you observe yourself and your behaviors, um, and you begin to notice how you've grown, or what different kinds of things are helping you grow faster, or what different kinds of things just bring pleasure, or what different kinds of things hurt you. Um, Observing yourself and how you interact with yourself, but also with others, is very important, um, to navigate any kind of project, to be honest. But I learned this again while doing the Go Produce podcast. I thought it was interesting because I was growing in terms of like project management, and just in general learning about the music industry, and also as a host. It was the first time that I ever hosted anything like that. I did spend 3 years working on personal development, and speech delivery, and communication, professional communication, at a club called Toastmasters. Big shout out to Toastmasters. I would definitely recommend that if that sounds interesting to you. And it did help build the confidence that I needed in order to pursue my music at in the way that I'm doing it. Um, and this came through that careful observation of self, but not only of self, like I mentioned earlier, observation of others as well, and the environment that you're in, because you can't control how people act, um, but you can control how you act, and how you respond, and the environment that you're in. So if the people around you aren't sharing the same values, or doing the same kind of things that you want, have the same work ethic, whatever it is, it's up to you to not necessarily cut those people off, but change how your relationship is with them, and change your circumstances, change your environment as best as you can. Given the circumstances, sometimes that's not entirely possible. But that was another lesson that really presented itself, and made itself very obvious, to me, that when you're working in a team, you've got to see how you operate, and you've got to see how the team operates, because if it's not a cohesive fit, eventually you're going to experience unhealthy friction. Friction can be healthy, but unhealthy friction won't typically resolve in anything positive. Um, so, at least in the long term. So just keep that in mind. Observe yourself, observe others, and don't be too critical, but practice healthy boundaries. That said, no matter how beautiful a relationship is, um, sometimes it comes to an end. You know, we have different chapters in our lives, different seasons that we go through, and there comes a time when chapters do end. It doesn't mean that we have to hold on to any kind of pain or guilt or shame that it ended. Um, I think actually we should celebrate the fact that it even happened. Sometimes it's not so easy to do that, and sometimes it's not so easy to actually end the chapter. We want to hold on to it because we are comfortable with it, um, and that's totally fair. But sometimes it's also important to remember that you're robbing yourself from what else is supposed to be or what else can be occurring to you or for you during that time that you're holding on to something else. Um, it's, I think, a lesson that I'm still working on fully taking in, and it's easier, to tell other people about it than to fully apply all of these lessons again to my life. So it's a process, but it's something that came to my attention after having done the 2 years of work with this group. All the love to them. They're doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. It was just time for that chapter to end, and it was difficult, but it was beautiful. Um, and the further I went on in my career, I've come to realize that life is literally a series of letting go of the things that we know, um, and sometimes it can really suck too. Bars from Let It Go. That's a song that I got. So you should definitely check that one out too. I'm gonna link it somewhere on the screen here. All right. Also, another lesson that I learned after having spoken to so many music industry professionals, and at that point having been in the industry for just over 2 years. Um, Granted, this was during COVID, so I wasn't really out and about doing the different kinds of things. But I was networking online, and I was learning and observing, studying, researching, and I came to realize that the music industry itself is vicious. You know what I'm saying? Um, for many different reasons, across many different levels, it's just really aggressive. High levels of competition. There is a lot of healthy collaboration. There is a lot of love, but at the same time, there's a lot of crabs in a bucket mentality. There is a lot of gatekeeping. There is a lot of hoops that are out there that you can jump through to get certain things if you want. It's gonna cost a lot of time. It's gonna cost a lot of money. It's gonna cost you your emotional security and well-being at times. It's gonna really challenge you to see who you are, and I say this like I've mastered it all. This is also an ongoing process. I'm very certain that as we continue on this experience, um, I'm gonna run into different kinds of challenges, and it's because of these challenges that, like, or a reason, one of the reasons that I'm doing this is because of these challenges that I experience, because I think that there's at least something that you can take away from it. Because it's my lived experience doesn't mean you have to live it fully the same way. I mean, granted, you can have your own experience by all means, but if this can help you streamline it, then do it. Hopefully, with that, you can get a little bit farther in less time. But yeah, prepare yourself for a bit of a treacherous path that is incredibly rewarding. Um, and it seems a little bit kind of wild to say that, but it's gonna require mindset. It's gonna test you. It's gonna challenge you. It's gonna bring you to your knees, and it's gonna say what you are all about. It's gonna see how bad you want it. It's gonna see how disciplined you are. It's gonna see how easily you can say no to those more fun, quote unquote, activities that are so tempting. What sacrifices are you willing to make? how far are you actually truly willing to do this? Is it a fun idea to think about, or is it something that you're willing to show up and do the work every single day? Keep in mind, this is not like a 9 to 5 kind of job or a part-time job where you just shut it off and you can move on. It's something that requires obsession 25 hours, 8 days of the week. Um, and sometimes it's like, yo, I wish I could turn it off. And I think it is healthy to be able to develop a way where you can do that, maybe at some point, sometimes. But for the most part, like if you don't obsess, I really don't think it's gonna happen um, to the level that you might want it to. That said, everyone wants different levels, and they start at different stages. So this is just my experience. But I do know, and I will challenge anyone on this, that mindset is required in order to accomplish pretty much anything unless it's handed to you. But mindset is required to keep what is handed to you. Um, so mindset was a lesson that I was reinforced while doing the Go Produce podcast, and it's something that I still consistently practice. Um, I think that would be almost a good first step. That's what I was doing with Toastmasters, developing my confidence, developing my speech, my communication abilities, body language and tonation and delivery and all those kinds of things. They help. And that confidence kind of helped me develop a bit more of a plan. I did all of that actually before I even started anything in music. And so that's why I think doing those kinds of things helped me land in the position that I'm in today. And so that was my plan, figuring out how can I get better and do something that I truly want to do, something that excites me. And this is how I landed where I am. And I say that because the plan doesn't have to be like fully set in stone as to where you're going. The plan at the beginning was I just want to become better. I want to feel better about myself. I want to get myself out of this gutter, this rut that I'm in, and I want to figure out what lights me up. And so from there, I want to become a rapper. I want to become a professional rapper. Then I started building other plans, and all of these different plans kind of helped help begin move the wheel in the direction that I was trying to go. And one thing led to the next, and we've got some healthy momentum going in the direction that I think is positive, fulfilling, inspiring. And now the next step is to just keep that momentum going. You know what I'm saying? Be willing to pivot because things do change unexpectedly, and in different ways at different times. But the idea here is to kind of just ride the wave. You know where you're going, you've got your eye on the target, and sometimes it changes over times, depending on the situation. And you're just doing your best to stay afloat. You're trying to ride it. The outside factors are going to play a factor in what you're going to experience, but it's up to you to adjust and to ride the wave. That said, while you're on this wave this analogy that I just came up with, there might be other surfers riding the same wave or in kind of the path that you're in. Maybe they're jet ski drivers, and they're helping you navigate the rockier the stormy waters where you're surfing. What my point is that there might be other people that are in the environments that you're in that might be on your team and are helping you, or might be on your team and aren't so supportive at the time, or they might not be on the team and they're just kind of distractions, or they're supporting in a different way. It's a variety of different people that could be out here. But managing how you navigate amongst them is going to come with challenges, and how you do that will either be, will make or break the experience. It'll pose more challenges that come with making your way through the wave around all the obstacles, or you can work together and clear the path so that you're all going in the same direction, doing the same thing, and so that no one's colliding and crashing into each other. But managing the situation, managing yourself, managing people, and all of the emotions and energy that comes associated with that is a little bit of a skill that you're going to need to develop if you haven't already. And if you have, it's something that you're going to need to nurture, because there's always something going on between people when there's multiple people working, let alone what you have going on in yourself. So just remember that managing people comes with challenges, and it is a skill. So if it's not something that you've done before, know that becoming an independent artist, depending on what your goals are, might require you to build a team of your own. So that's something that you're going to need to learn to do. I wouldn't necessarily hire someone to do that for you until you get to a certain point. But it's an interesting additional hat that you're going to have to wear, that you might not be aware of, but just be sure that it is part of the whole experience. And then one last thing that I wanted to add to the whole Go Produce experience was to know your worth. This ties back to, I suppose, the first lesson that I said, which was know your purpose. So you want to know your worth too. Yes, depending on what your purpose is, it might not be making money. It might not be ownership of the product. But just remember why you're there, the purpose that you're there. And then if for ever some reason you feel like you're being undervalued, or you feel like you're not being heard, or whatever the case may be, where things aren't matching up where you think they should be, it might be time to reevaluate the situation, reconsider if it's still worthwhile to be doing the things that you're doing, and if it's time to adjust. This ties back again to a chapter must end. I think it's a nice way to tie up the whole experience. I think it's very important to know your worth, and then to also, of course, add the tax, because everyone else out here is doing the same thing, and I think you're worth it. So definitely do that shit, because I know I'm worth it, and I'm gonna do it. Those are the lessons that I learned from doing Go Produce, or some of them at least. If you haven't checked out any of the episodes, check them out here. I'm gonna also include the link somewhere there. But yeah, I encourage you to check them out. They are a couple of years old, but they still do have a lot of information in them. And if you do watch any of them, shoot me a message, or comment on them, or comment on this video, and we could chat about it. I would love some feedback to see what you think. If you need help with running your music businesses, I can help. I'll include the links to the services I provide in the description, including virtual assistants for musicians, music business consultations, Reiki, and life coaching. Before we leave, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I've got new episodes coming at you when I feel like it. Turn on notifications not to miss them. Feeling generous? Share this with a friend. It really helps us grow the crew. Thank you for joining me in the Big Loop Podcast, and I hope to see you in real life soon. Until next time, keep creating those opportunities, and remember, this is the Big Loop Podcast, damn it.